who are really experiencing poetry in all these different multimedia ways, and are saying loads of interesting stuff, but we're not really listening. So I would say maybe the internet is the new underground scene.
You were speaking of Amazon and how they sell, but I'm speaking of someone who looked this past Monday, the beginning of this week, I was in a big sales meeting for our Three Rooms Press, sitting with very large Perseus, the largest distributor of books in the world, and their Amazon guy probably deals with 500,000 titles a year that Amazon buys. So, not to burst any bubbles or anything, but just to learn a little bit about what Amazon does is if they don't have any prior sales, so if you have a book, say poetry, and you want it to be on Amazon, well, what you need to do is have pre-orders. And if you have pre-orders before the book is published, then Amazon orders 5 to 6 times as many of your pre-orders just on stock, which is cash in hand. So if you have a poetry book and you get 100 pre-orders, Amazon will order 500 books from you. If you have 1,000 pre-orders, they're going to order 5,000 books from you. And they buy them outright. It's not like they return them like bookstores or anything. So if you want to get in the business, get cousins and neighbors. This is what my guy told me. He sells 500,000 books. Get your cousin, get your neighbor, buy a book before it comes out, and then you might have a chance. But other than that, it's all books. It's not just poetry books now. So it's in the electronic world, and we've also switched to formatting poetry books into the right format for ebooks, because before they wouldn't have line breaks, and you couldn't do poetry books. So this is all a new art form too. If you were to think visually with ebook and how to format that, well, you could create a new art form there in your thinking and whatever academia might require.
Another 3 years extra.
That's also evil what Amazon does, because it's you are putting your neighbors and your cousins on Amazon and just to have better sale.
I'm not doing it. I mean, I asked my authors to do it, so I mean, maybe I'm the key to the evil. But I have to do that because, you know, I'm playing the game.
But it's the same thing with Facebook. You have to have likes and you have to have comments to be put on top so that more people will read it.
Is that true?
So you're yes.
Oh, no wonder.
I think having suggestion, every poet should see to have an e-commerce system.
Yeah, right.
Like many contemporary artists now follow courses to sell their work. I mean, times are changing, so it's. I know it's not a funny remark, but it's
true.
It's true.
I have one more comment that I want to make. It's just, and part of this is kind of the basis, I think, of your whole thesis, which is that on or off the page, there seems to be a need for poetry in this society. And one small example of that is I was participating in a poetry festival at Grand Central Station in New York, and we had poets would sit at typewriters, and you could come up and they would write you a poem on the spot and on carbon paper and not using computers. So you get the copy of the poem and then we keep one copy. The line for that people were willing to wait for 2.5 hours just to have this poem written for them. And the fact that slams are so popular, it's something, there's some need that people have for these words and these stories that we share.
Yeah, definitely. I work at Jeugd en Poëzie, Youth and Poetry, an organization in Antwerp, and we only focus on poetry and youth. So under the people who are 30 years or younger, and it's and only in Flanders. It's unbelievable how many people are writing poetry, reading poetry, wanting to read more poetry, wanting to meet poets, wanting to buy poetry books. but lots of young people don't know what to read or where to start, or they want to perform but they don't know how. So yeah, it's really inspiring and so interesting to see how many people are busy with poetry every day.
Next year we will have a 1 hour session of Touch the Poet. We will add a section to the festival, Touch the Poet.
And touch back.
And we will ask funding from the Flemish Fund of Literature. Okay. Are there any more questions, remarks?
You've been sort of touching on and off the economics of poetry, like whether poetry is part of the economy, whether it's something separate, whether it's been crushed beneath the economy, whether it's rebelling against it. Do you have a view on that, or expected, or many years?
Well, it's also interesting. I've talked about that with my supervisors a lot too. You know, Pierre Bourdieu's theory and symbolic capital, and in that sense, poetry is very elite and prestigious, and you see lots of publishing houses still publishing poetry books. But if you would think about it economically, they could better not do that because they don't sell. Yeah, but they do. They keep on doing it, and you even have publishing houses here in Flanders like Xavier who focus on poetry, and they still exist. So it's a very interesting relationship with economics, and what we've also talked about today, the event culture, getting people to go to the Nacht van de Poëzie, the big poetry festival, buy the tickets, which are quite expensive, I think €30. Or for example, Das Magazine, a relatively new literary magazine in Holland, who also organize reading festivals, and it's really hip to have a bag from Das Magazine. You know, it's all very commercial, but it is all about literature. I mean, if you look at the essence, the authors and poets performing, and all these non-critical, non-professional readers coming over to sit there for 2 hours and talk about poetry. No, they don't do poetry, which is a bad thing. They do talk about prose. So yeah, it's a really it's economical and commercial, and it's not, and it's hip, and it's not, and yeah.
So you're thinking of it as an element inside the economy rather than...
Well, it's definitely in the economy, definitely. But it's a very weird. I know people who hire marketing people to sell poetry, and it never works out. They try to they try to sell poetry as a commercial product, which is what they were taught to do as marketing people, and it doesn't work. I've seen so many people just leave. Yeah. So it is a commercial product, but it's a very difficult one.
Amazon is
The most poetry books, I think, get sold by people at readings. You know, they do a reading, they sell more books than anybody. If you go to the poetry section of any bookstore, you know, Bukowski sells, you know, Ginsberg sells, but...
And the collection of the anthologies of dead people sell the best. Yeah.
We know what to do.
Okay.
Thank you very much for all these comments and questions. It's really, thank you.
And good luck with your...
good
I don't know if Xavier has a stick for a presentation
No.
about... You
I have everything here.
You have everything there, so then I'm going to switch off the news.
Hello, welcome. My name is Xavier Roelens.
First of all, I want to forget what has been written in the book. It says Xavier Roelens on how to write contemporary poetry with something as medieval as language. And it's also between brackets, it is in Dutch. I will do my best to do it in English, but the text I have written is in Dutch.
Charcoal English.
What?
Charcoal English.
Charcoal English, yes, as promised. That was, what is written here is the hunch I had a month ago to write about something, and every time I sat on my bureau on my desk and I tried to write the hunch down, I saw that my thoughts were going all the way up and down and everywhere, but not on the page. And so last Sunday I felt that it became time that there came something on the page, but I still didn't have the how you say that, the rode draad, I missed the spine in what I wanted to tell, in fact. And when I had the image of the spine in my head, I thought maybe I should not try to find a spine, I should just write 33 pieces of spines. I don't know how you say that in English, wervels.
Vertebrae.
Vertebrae.